Hello everyone. In this video we will know about final wipe off of the Empire. Spoilers ahead, so watch out. So, let's start the video. Calgurio was surrounded by bad news. It was no longer up for debate, the invasion plan had failed miserably. No, now was not a time to idle. It was a situation where he was starting to doubt if they could even leave this forest alive. How did this happen? Wait, from when did it even start? Agitated and failing to calm himself down, Calgurio tries to set his mind to figuring out a plan for the soon-to-come battle. Their prospects being utterly hopeless, he must nevertheless perform his duty as a general, as a man responsible for the lives of his troops. At least, he could not allow himself to lose his cool. The very first report confirmed that the battle had commenced. The heated battle had reached a stalemate. The enemy had built a defense line comparable to an impregnable wall that, even with all their numbers, they couldn't break through with brute force. The anti-magic cannons and wide-area magic blasts from their mages were nullified by the enemy's perimeter-wide force field, effectively sealing off that form of attack. A splendid show of defense, he must admit. The labyrinth invasion force being effectively AWOL, capturing the capital was also proving much more troublesome than imagined. Putting the pieces together, Calgurio had finally begun to realize his utter and complete loss. By the time, it was long past too late. Tensions rose further for the Imperial troops. A new enemy battalion had arrived, and they strangled the battlefield with fear. In the blink of an eye, many comrades had fallen. The enemy's numbers being only a fraction of their own, it was nevertheless a one-sided slaughter from the minority's side. The threat estimation team reported that it was a battalion consisting of many high-level monsters. But most of them were of similar level to the Empire's forces. There were not many who could be considered a rank or above. However, as the results clearly showed, the Imperial troops were being cornered. And that wasn't all. From behind the enemy's impregnable wall formation, unbelievably strong wide-area magic was being shot out. The enemy's magic had achieved its task of leaving the Imperials greatly damaged. The aim of the battalion in purple, spreading fear and confusion over the Imperial troops, was to decrease the load on their force field. A splendid show of teamwork. But if that was the only problem, there would still have been room for striking back. The capital capture force had been divided into two teams of 100,000, a first contact and a rear guard group. If the first contact group got weakened from battle, the rear guard would immediately go in as support, and switch in ready and able troops. This plan to overwhelm the enemy was only possible due to their vast superiority in numbers. Lasting even a single hour would show that this demon lord was competent. Not knowing just how defeated they actually were, Calgurio was relaxed with his thoughts. His ease was taken away by the events that followed. Calgurios and his advisors were observing the situation from a few kilometers away using telescopic magic. Every one of them had lost the power to speak. It was at that very moment that their confidence broke. The threat estimation team began screaming like madmen. "Our retreat. Sir, please order retreat right now." It was all over, and the scene that unfolded in front of their eye let them know exactly what those words meant. It was the utter tragedy that was the fate that befell on the rear guard group, who were getting ready to support their comrades on the front lines. The cause? A devastating nuclear magic known as gravity collapse. Releasing an insane amount of force, the cruel magic crushed them all. With gravity like that of a star, a localized gravity field had been generated. Anyone who may have been inside that super compressed area had been crushed without exception. If that kind of force had continued any longer, all the energy would get focused on a single point, eventually creating a small black hole. The enemy did not intend to go that far, thankfully. Eliminating the majority of the troops, the magic had ceased. But, with almost 100,000 dead, it'd be a miracle if any had survived. It's a monster. A single attack with that kind of magic. Even though it was in theory only. Even though the amount of energy needed was completely unrealistic, and had never been used before. Even Calgurio understood that much. It was possible in theory, and was still in the experimental stages. Subscribe the channel if you are enjoying this video. Let's make it 1K subscriber family. So, let's continue. As there was no precedent, gathering up the best minds in the Empire, working with cutting-edge technology, building and improving the theory, it was groundbreaking research on the highly anticipated concept of nuclear magic. And they now saw it used, and in the most perfect sense. And that, by a single beast. Demon Lord. The reality of that title, gouged at Calgurio's brain. Had they just declared war on something they must never challenge? In the first place, to maintain a magic on that scale, even 10 elite mages wouldn't last. Without clearly understanding the scale of that much energy, their concentration would break, leading to them suffering spontaneous combustion. To even stop it in the process, perfectly, it was definitely the work of a fearsome demon. But we still have the magic canceller that can. No, Calgurio-sama, we need to immediately order retreat. The man who had abruptly come inside the tent advised Calgurio. You're out of line, soldier, is what he would have said if he had not looked at the man. Are you by chance Krishna Dono? Sent by the emperor himself, this man was an elite and a priceless asset for the war. As someone he had challenged many times, Calgurio knew this man was undeniably a strong warrior. That man was now in rags, the Empire's strongest legendary armor he donned falling apart, with large holes in its upper part. He had the appearance of having faced a fierce battle. Look, Bazin and Reha are already gone. Colonel Kansas and Major General Minutes too. And also, 2 feet otherworlders. There's monsters in the labyrinth that easily took on all of us. That nuclear magic just now, it probably wasn't the Demon Lord either. Multiple Archdemon level enemies were reported to be seen in the labyrinth. And there are even Demon Lord level ones. That attack just now likely came from one of those. Now that you know this, I implore you to make the right decision. There is no shame. Not the Demon Lord, but a number of the same tiered Demon Lords, you say. So this is the power of this country. If Storm Dragon Veldora comes out now, we can't hope to win. And Demon Lord RIMURU hasn't even moved himself, you say. Gather the troops. We're retreating. Of the 3 revival charms that were confiscated from Shinji and company, one of them was secretly in the possession of Calgurio. 2 of them were taken in for research purposes, and one of those ended up with Krishna. Being the Emperor's direct order, the researchers had no choice but to hand over their research materials. One of the charms, they had completely broken down, and thanks to that last one, Krishna was able to miraculously revive. With this, the charm's effects were confirmed, and coincidentally, the replica's effect had also been confirmed. The troops in the labyrinth were truly wiped out. A total of 350,000 soldiers dead, but Calgurio did not have the time to become distraught. Giving the still living a chance to escape this madness took priority. They would need to regroup with the magic tank platoon, and aerial fighter legion's 400 airships that were working separately from them. At worst, they would have to completely retreat back to the Empire, but that was much better than getting annihilated here. Calgurio decided to act now. But, once again, too late. Kufufufufu. We can't have that now. I implore you to give me a bit of attention too. The devil had sneaked in, and was definitely not going to let go of his prey. HQ was in panic. Only one monster had invaded in. But the aura he emitted was more powerful than anything that they had ever seen. This demon, who had the same height as them, had a presence much stronger than that of a ferocious dragon. Moreover, it had come this far in without anyone suspecting a thing. It was able to completely erase its enormous aura. The guards pointed their swords towards it. But, with his body gone limp, Calgurio didn't possess the will to hold his sword anymore. Kufufufufu. You insects would face me in battle as equals. The red-haired devil, Diablo, laughed. Calgurio glanced at Krishna, but the latter was already crouching down. Sensing the enemy's absolute might, he had lost all hope. Calgurio, betting his last bit of hope, tried to negotiate with Diablo. Excuse me, I am known as Calgurio, the general of this army, and the highest authority in this room. May you be kind enough so as to let us know your name. Oh yeah, you're a polite one. My name is Diablo, loyal servant of Demon Lord RIMURU. As he had guessed, this was a named devil. In the first place, something of its class would be an oddity if it didn't have a name. Confirming that the devil had intelligence and understood reason, Calgurio pressed forward with negotiations. Diablo Dono, we wish to offer surrender. If we continue to fight like this, would your side not also suffer damage? How about it? Of course, we will pay any reparations, and never again think of stepping onto this land with the intention of war. In fact, consider the Empire and Tempest allied nations. We will never forget this kindness. May we ask for audience with Demon Lord RIMURU? How about it? Looking at their current conditions, all 350,000 of the Labyrinth invasion force had been annihilated. And, of those in the capital, more than half were dead or unable to fight. With the other division being out of contact, including the remaining 150,000 troops here, around 200,000 could still be saved. It was the best course of action to protect them. What with the enemy having an overwhelming advantage, they would surely die. Calgurio had made the decision to see Demon Lord RIMURU to try and negotiate a way out of this country. This war had been their complete defeat. They had underestimated the enemy by a long shot. Their army was capable of taking down 3 of the old demon lords at the same time. Even with all the Western countries' armies combined, they would only number a third of the imperial forces. All their confidence, and this was the result. Under Demon Lord RIMURU, there were multiple Demon Lord level monsters. The best choice was to pay up the reparations, and ensure a future for themselves. Almost 500,000 had already died. No doubt this was the end for Calgurio, but any more losses could even cause the empire to collapse. Calgurio was greedy, sure, but he wasn't foolish. This was his reasoning. If it meant that the empire would survive, he was more than willing to sacrifice himself. But, this time too, it was too late. Kufufufufu. You're a bit too late now. The only ones still alive are you lot here. Calgurio didn't understand his words. His advisors were the same. Diablo's words didn't convey any meaning. But Diablo paid no heed. He snapped his fingers with a "pachin" sound, which caused the tent to be blown away, and the scene to be burned into Calgurio's eyes. It was a sea of corpses. As if sleeping, the soldiers had died instantly in the middle of work. As if only their souls were taken out. No, not as if, but in reality, their souls had been stolen away without resistance. But the red-haired devil, Diablo. In the first place, Diablo had no reason to actually try to sneak into the enemy base. It would be a pain to kill anyone who noticed him. With that reason, while walking in, he reaped the souls of all the enemy soldiers with "End of the World." Actually, Demon Lord's ambition was enough to do the job, but then it would cause a ruckus. Diablo never had any intention of letting the enemy go, so he went and cleaned up the mess without hesitation. Diablo was, in reality, a natural loner. Because of that, he never took on any personal subordinates. Useless tools, he would throw away. Right now, a lesser demon, Venom, had been following him around, but if he was useful, he'd be put to use. For Diablo, tools only had meaning in their utility. With that mindset, he cared not for useless underlings, and moreover, wanted to be a useful tool for his master RIMURU. You tilde ooh, Calgurio screamed, almost vomiting blood, and glared at Diablo. His rage from the death of comrades had overcome any fear. At which point, a brilliant armor slams into Calgurio, to try and calm him down. The strongest armor, a remnant from the Age of Gods. Gifted from the Emperor, it was a god-tier armor. It was the symbol of the Empire's strength. Only the 4 generals were allowed to even witness its glory. Fuck you, demon, I'll fucking obliterate you, kufufufufufu, now that's what I'm talking about. The final battle would begin with both parties leering. But it would wrong to call it an actual battle. Calgurio was so much of a lesser organism compared to Diablo that, even if he was wearing the god-tiered armor, it would make no difference. A tool has meaning, only in the hands of its owner. There is no sadder tale than an owner who can't bring out the full potential of his tool. Diablo had no need to actually fight against Calgurio, as it was merely a matter of reaping his soul. 150,000 Imperial troops had formed a base around the labyrinth entrance. Leaving a small number of superiors, every one of them had been eliminated. Without them having the slightest idea as to how. Thus, the enemy invading Tempest were wiped out without achieving much of anything. For now the crisis had been averted. But was it ever really a danger, would depend on the person asked. The Imperial invasion of Tempest, thus ended in failure. Leave a like if you like the content. Subscribe the channel for more videos. Meet you on next one.